Welcome back to another episode of First Light, the show where transformation begins with one conversation at a time. I'm your host, Chris Keller. Today's conversation is one I've been looking forward to because it sits right at the intersection of leadership, reinvention, and the courage to walk your own path. My guest is Jamie Moraga, an entrepreneur, CEO, and the author of the powerful new book, Revered. Her book is part memoir, part leadership guide, and a part call to action, not just for women, but for anyone who's ever questioned their place at the table. So today we're diving deep into her journey, the lessons behind Revered, and what it truly takes to lead in a way that earns respect, builds trust, and creates impact. Let's step into the light with Jamie Moraga. All right, today I get to welcome Jamie Moraga to First Light. Jamie just had a book that came out, and so we're going to get into that. But Jamie, for those who may not know you, why don't you take a second to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Jamie Moraga. I am author of Revered, the Power of Female Leadership, and I am CEO of Franklin Revere. I had a business that I started in the military and defense community here in San Diego almost 20 years ago, which is crazy to even think. And I ended up founding it, growing it, and eventually selling it. And Franklin Revere is actually my consulting arm that I've done since I transitioned out of my previous role. And then now it's just been my book this year. So it's been a sprint, and it's been a journey all in itself. So
Well, that's an amazing experience, and we share a lot. I started a law firm and recently sold my law firm. I'm still on as an employee, but with
nice,
that,
congrats! It's huge.
thank
I
you.
mean, the
And
merger and acquisition process is no joke.
it is no joke, and still learning. But it's been an amazing experience, and but also. Like you got into the book and consulting and different things. I'm really excited to learn more about your journey. But let's talk first about the book. So
Yeah.
let's talk about why did you write a book? What was this kind of the spark that told you that you needed to share this story?
Yeah, so just going back, it's writing a book has been a lifelong journey for me. It's been a lifelong goal. It's been something that I wanted to do since I was 7 or 8 years old. It was just I wanted to write a book. I didn't know at the time what it was going to be about. I think probably I thought, oh, it'll be like young reader or children's book or something like that. But after I sold my business, and I was sitting there going, and at different points, people had said, "Oh, you should write a book or whatever." And I just kind of thought, "I'm not ready. I don't even know what I would even write about." And then it was probably a year after I had sold the company, and I had met another author that had gone through Ashley's program, and she had just published her book. And I just said, I don't know, it just hit me like, okay, I think I might be ready. And then I just started to kind of think about ideas of what I would want to write about. And really, it comes down to me wanting to write a book for the person that I was when I started my business or when I was on the early stages of my journey. And I just couldn't find that book. So I wrote that, I actually wrote that book for myself, for that person that I was, realizing that as I went through it myself and as I talked to other women in different industries along my journey, we felt similar things, but we also felt like we didn't have a resource to go to, or we just didn't feel like there was a book out there that really talked about what it really is behind the scenes of being a female CEO. And so I wanted to do my story as the through line, so from founding to exit and everything between, and then I wanted to find women who are currently going through the journey right now, and then weave in their stories into the book as well, because I really wanted to. The book is designed to empower, it's designed to motivate and inspire current female CEOs, aspiring female entrepreneurs, and then the next generation of female leaders. And so I broke it into the 4 phases of the CEO journey. So it's essentially the founding first 7 years, because some are founders and some have been promoted into the role of CEO. So I have that. Then I have the middle years, which is roughly 8 to 15 years. So the messy, what the people are calling the messy middle, and that's what another person coined in the book as well. And then you have the experienced veteran who's been, in the trenches for a long time, 16 to 25 plus years. And then the last phase that I focused on was the retirement transition exit years. So it's when you have exited the business, whether you've retired, whether you have sold the business, whether you've just exited and moved on to something else. It's the reflection back. So I found women in different industries, different backgrounds, different parts of the country, different business sizes, just because I wanted people to pick up the book and just sit there and read and sit there and go, hey, I identify with this person, or I can relate to this person, or maybe there's a nugget from each story that just kind of hits people. And so that is what the book is designed, is to be a tool, a reference, and really a source of inspiration, and for people to feel not alone in the journey. And so that's really why I wrote the book, and that's how the book was structured. So my story, and then the story of women who are currently going through each of those phases right now.
I can't wait to unpack the book some more. But let's talk about kind of the writing process, because the writing process, as I know, having gone through it recently as well, is really a struggle. And so
It is.
talk about that struggle and of getting this idea, this concept, and then actually trying to bring it to life is another thing. So take us through your
Yeah,
journey.
absolutely. And I know you and I have a similar, because we worked with Ashley and team, and getting that pro outline, that was helpful. And then it was so fleshing that out, but it was also, I had the nuance of really reaching out to these female CEOs. They're busy. I know, because I was one. I am one. I know it's tough. And then if you don't know me, I'm messaging you on social media, or I'm reaching out to you via email. uh, it was I just kind of put it out there. And so I was actually writing and interviewing at the same time, so that was a little bit chaotic. So I did my outline, and I started actually working on my portion January February timeframe of this year. And what I ended up utilizing, and I don't know if you utilize this as well in your writing, is I do really well with voice memos. And I do really well because I have a tendency to be in the car, or I'm on the go a lot. And so it's a luxury for me to sit down and just be typing away on my laptop. So I actually would ask myself questions, and actually I asked myself the same questions that I asked the female CEOs that I interviewed. And I would just go. So I'd be like, if I'm driving in the car for 20 minutes, I just would start talking. And that actually, I could take those transcripts, bring them over, organize them, and then it started helping me populate my pro outline. Um, and then it was really, once I got the interviews done and I got all of my self interviews done, then it was organizing all of it. And for me, it was just, I just have to shut everything out. And so I put like my AirPods in, and I love music. So I set like a soundtrack to like I'd sit there and go, okay, I'm going to go to this, my founding years. I would just pick a particular artist or soundtrack, and then I would get myself immersed in it. And then I'd write for a few hours and piece it together. And I did that even with the female CEOs. They each had their own soundtracks as I wrote. Yeah,
I
yeah.
love it.
It's just, that's how I work. And if you read the book, I have music that actually is a through line in the book as
I
well.
love it.
And so yeah, so it was interesting for me to be able to carve out the time. Sometimes, like you talk about, I mean, your podcast is called First Light, and yeah, that's the time, because during the day you're all over the place. And so for me, my writing sessions were either really really late at night after everyone's gone to bed, or I'd wake up early in the morning and be on my Peloton treadmill with my Peloton treadmill desk, and I'm typing away. So yeah, it's an interesting journey, and it's a lot. I mean, it was way more time consuming than I anticipated.
Yeah, for me, I struggled with kind of self doubt. Putting this book out there, is this the best idea? There was plenty of times I wanted to walk away. Did you ever have those moments where you're like, "What am I doing here?"
Oh yeah. You know what was interesting was I was going to keep, I don't know if you were going to do this, but I was going to keep it a secret. I even told my husband, like, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to I'm going to tell our son, Jack, he's going to be 11 in a couple weeks. I was like, okay, I'm going to tell you guys. I don't even know if I'm going to tell my parents. I'm going to keep it a secret. And I just was afraid, to put it out there. I'm a pretty private person. So putting something out publicly on Instagram or LinkedIn or telling family and friends I'm doing this is a very vulnerable feeling. And that, yeah, then once people know, it's not easy to walk away because it's out there. And so, yeah, as I went through the journey, even with that, there are moments where I'm sitting there go, can I do this? I ended up, my first rough draft ended up being 90,000 words. And Ashley's team was like, it needs to be like around 60,000 words. And I'm like, what? I have to edit this down from like 90,000 words to 60,000 words. And I'm sitting there going, can I do this without losing the book? So yeah, there's those moments where you're just like, even launching the book too, you're just sitting there going, okay, I've kept this book to myself. This has been mine since January. And all of a sudden you're just launching it into the world and hoping people will like it and embrace it. And, I'm sure you probably felt some of the same things.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I struggled with, that I think the program helped with, obviously, was accountability. I was accountable to deadlines and certain things that had to happen by
Yeah.
a certain date, and they held you accountable to getting it done. I know that
Yes.
without that accountability, for me at least, and I'm very disciplined. I did an Ironman, and so I had to show up for training, but that was different, right? That was something that I knew I wanted to do. I knew I'd
Yeah.
worked hard to get to. I knew I had to put the training time in order for it to get done. The book was something like I was like, all right, well, if I don't publish it, then what's it really matter? Nobody will really know. And there's all kinds of ways
Right.
to talk yourself out of it. I don't know if you had that part of it, if you struggle with that accountability.
Yeah, no, it was hard too because it was ambitious because I was still writing. I mean, I was still really formulating everything January, and I don't even think I had my full rough draft, the 90,000 word one, until the end of May. And I started the publishing program in, I want to say April. So I was running in parallel. So to sit there and then I knew I wanted to get the book out this year, and I wanted to get it in October before the holidays. And so yeah, it was ambitious. And so all those milestones, and then as I did that, as they oh, here's this deadline, then I'd sit there and go, oh geez, I did this to myself, so I'm the one who's pushing this. So if I don't do this, then it's my fault that I've pushed and I don't want to wait until 2026. Like, I want to keep doing this. So yeah, that accountability, and then pushing yourself, definitely, because if you didn't have those deadlines and milestones, then it would have been easy just to say, oh, I'll just get to it next week, or maybe I'll just push it to next year. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, I do want to talk more about some of the subject in the book, and not without giving too much of the book away. But obviously, the legal profession. If you look around and you look at the business owners, the leadership, the shareholders, it still tends to be a male-dominated kind of industry, and I think we see that true at the CEO level for a lot of companies. So I do want you to talk about, kind of what is the hardest part of navigating a male-dominated industry as a woman, and what's kind of surprised you the most in your career.
Yeah, so I mean, I think for me, when I started my business, I was in my late 20s, and military and defense here in San Diego, definitely male dominated. I think I felt, I had my MBA, so I had a little bit of a business background, but I think it was a lot for me, was just a lot of the naivete, and I just had this courageous optimism that, okay, I know I can be a leader. I know I can start this. My father's retired Navy. He had his own defense contracting business. So I knew I could go to him for mentorship. But still, it's that journey, or that industry has a lot of nuances and very high barriers to entry. And so I think initially it was like, oh yes, I'll try this. It's like the Elle Woods mentality, what it's hard. And then you get the fire hose and you sit there and go, oh my gosh, there's more to this than I ever anticipated. And that's where I think for me my determination and my never say die attitude really kicked in. It's like, okay, I got to learn this. I want to make myself proud. I want to make my family proud. And so I think that really drives you just to continue to learn and evolve. And yeah, I think I struggled with this most of my journey. Is I had never served in the military. I never had attended any of the service academies. I'm not an engineer or a scientist by trade, and I hadn't worked in the industry previously. So I had a lot against me. But at the same time, I was willing to learn, and I was willing to put myself out there. And joining professional organizations in town where people could get to know me was very helpful. So I was able to, volunteer in those organizations and get to know people, and then ascended eventually to getting on the boards of some of those local organizations, and then eventually even being the chair, or it was a president at the time, but now it's a chairperson of San Diego Military Advisory Council. So, I eventually ascended up. And as you do that, you build your reputation, you build your network. People know who you are. It's the know, like, trust factor. And, it's you just chipping away. And for me, it was I always wanted to be myself. I consider myself a pretty genuine, kind person. And I didn't want to sit there. And I think some females feel like they have to be hard and tough and barracuda like. And I never wanted to be that. I never wanted to turn into that. I always wanted to be open and approachable and genuine and encouraging. And I'm proud to say that, 2 decades later, I'm here, and I feel like didn't lose connection to that person. And I'm still that same person. I've evolved, of course, but I still feel like I'm at the core of who I am authentically. And so I feel like that shined through. And as I built my reputation and built the business, I feel like having that, being myself and not changing to fit norms, especially in a male dominated industry, was it also encouraged other women to kind of step into the realm. Because when I started, there weren't a lot of women like me in the room. And now if you go to the organizations in town like SDMAC and look around the room, and I'm excited to see women there of all ages and all different levels of leadership. And so I feel like the industry here is evolved with the times as well in the last 20 years, which is really exciting.
Uh, did you struggle at all with the kind of the identity as a mom, a wife, a CEO, a leader? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's the wearing of many hats. I had been in my business for maybe 7 or 8 years before I had my son in 2014. And ironically enough, I was the SDMAC president while I was pregnant with my son. So that was exciting to be able to show everybody, okay, here, not only am I a female CEO, I am also the president of this organization for the year, and I'm pregnant doing it. And so I feel like, I got feedback from a lot of women that were like, wow, you were able to do all of that. You showcased all of that and then did it publicly and openly. But it doesn't come without its struggles. I think that's where I really started having a tough time as an entrepreneur and a mom, navigating both of those at the same time, juggling them, because balance to me does not exist. It's a juggle. And I was really, I think that's where almost the nexus of where Revered came from was I was searching for stories of similar women in similar positions that felt like me and that I could sit there and identify with. And at the time, I feel like women in leadership weren't as honest about what the journey was like. I think that if they felt it was too vulnerable and they wanted to portray that I can do everything. Yeah, you sit there and see people interviewed or writing books about, wow, I'm a great mom and I'm a great CEO and I'm a great wife and I'm a great community leader. And I'm doing this all fantastically awesome. And you're sitting there going, I don't know. I don't feel that way, And so for me, that's where the Revered came from. Is I wanted to find someone who was like me and knew like, hey, this is not an easy journey. There's ups and downs and there's a lot of dualities to it, highs and lows. There's some periods of isolation. There's the self-doubt and how do you juggle being a mom and a wife and a CEO and a community leader? So that's really actually where the book came from, is because it's not easy to do. and it still isn't. It's still an adjustment. It's still a juggle. So yeah, it's definitely a different. It brings a different aspect when you bring motherhood into the role.
Well, talk about the isolation at the top because I think that is so true, and for leaders is that once you rise to a certain level, it becomes lonely at the top,
Yes.
and so talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So, in all honesty, especially being in a male dominated industry, me being female, asking for help at the time or showing that you didn't know something was more looked at it as a detriment. And so I didn't feel like I could ask. I had my father there as a mentor. He could help me on the business side. But for me, I would like, it's a difference when you're looking for someone who's a female, who's a leader, and also a working mom. So it would have been helpful to have a business coach, an executive coach, a mastermind, a peer community, something. And I just couldn't find that. It wasn't as readily available as it is now. And then also, social media didn't really exist at the time the way it is now, where you can see some more of the behind the scenes, and I feel like a lot more forthcoming about the highs and the lows of leadership. So yeah, it's difficult to work through, and you can feel. I definitely had periods of time where I felt very isolated and alone, and I didn't feel like I could say anything like, "Hey, I need some help here," and so I feel like we definitely have evolved where people feel like they can do that. I know I do that now. If I don't know something, I am happy to raise my hand, or if someone asks me a question, hey, I don't know that, but I'm happy to, figure that out and get back to you, and or talk to someone and get back to you. So, it's not, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to sit there and have all the answers, and it's okay to want to continue to have a support system and learn and grow, and have that sounding board so you don't get yourself into a situation where you're alone and you're isolated.
Yeah, so you've navigated growth, you've navigated leadership, now you've navigated selling a business. So, what's a leadership lesson that you think you've learned along the way, and that you would share?
Yeah, what's interesting is with the book is when I was interviewing several of the female leaders, I was talking to Star Edwards, and she's the founder and CEO of Bitch and Sauce. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Bitch and Sauce, but it's going to be America's next big condiment. So it's a dipping sauce, and so they originated here in San Diego, but they're an international brand now. And as I was talking to her, she indicated that her being uncomfortable was her superpower, and that she felt that being uncomfortable is what led to her personally growing. And I know for the longest time, I have equated being uncomfortable as a negative thing, being something. I like harmony, and I like predictability and all that. And being uncomfortable is not something that I usually seek, even though I have put myself constantly into uncomfortable roles, being a CEO and an entrepreneur and an author. So I appreciated her saying that because it reframed it in my mind as something that should be positive. Yeah, they're I've been uncomfortable in pretty much every role that I've had, including being a mom and a wife and all that, just even general life. And what it is it's growth. I'm pushing myself. I'm learning. And so when I get into uncomfortable, I feel uncomfortable. I'm sitting there going, you know what? You're growing. You're learning something new, and it might be uncomfortable at this moment, but you're pushing yourself to the next level. So I would say that's something that I even learned recently is just to reframe it versus looking at it as a negative and shifting it to more as a positive, and being able to move forward with that. So that has helped me as I've gone through, especially even just the book and the book launch and doing everything involved with that. I'm still learning. I didn't know anything about writing a book when I started this time last year. So it's been uncomfortable a lot
Well,
this year.
well, going on that uncomfortable kind of subject, your book, um, for me at least, in writing the book, there was a couple of chapters, and one particular for me that was kind of difficult to write, and really, I don't want to say difficult to write. It was maybe the easiest to write in some ways,
Yeah.
but difficult in the sense of what I was sharing and what I was trying to convey, and being kind of
Yes.
vulnerable and open. Was there a chapter or story in the book that was especially difficult for you to write, but ultimately you feel like is maybe the most important?
Yeah, I feel like yeah, there's definitely points in the book that I definitely am more vulnerable and revealing certain things, and I think one of them is even the inciting incident, and it's I went through multiple miscarriages when I was going through the middle years in just it was back to back to back, and it was just very difficult. And I talk about it in the book, and equate it to how I lost a real good connection to my intuition at that point. And the book explores that a little bit. And I feel like, yeah, so that's a personal thing that I shared, that some people may not have known about me because, you don't, back then, no one really talked about those things and didn't reveal those things. Like, as a CEO, you just kind of, you know I had things happen, and then I had to just put on the face and put on the role and move forward. And even though you're personally going through things, you're like, hey, this business still needs to run, and I still need to be a mom to my son, and I need to be out there moving forward. But inside, you're having a lot of personal um, issues and personal challenges. And so, yeah, sharing some of that in the book was a little bit tough. And then just some of the things that I learned along my journey as a CEO, I am forthcoming about that as well. So yeah, I mean, there's definite points of vulnerability in there, but I feel like it's also can be used as a positive, and the fact that we should share these things, and so that people can relate and not feel as alone or isolated. I know that as I've read different stories or seen different things on social media from different leaders that have shared things, I sit there and go, wow, I would never have known that about them if they hadn't shared it. And it just makes me feel more connected to them, and also makes me feel less alone. So if I can contribute that to that conversation in some way, I want to be as helpful as I can. So if I, yeah, it's tough to share. I'm a relatively private person, so but I feel like it's worth it if I can help someone else.
Well, the book really blends memoir, your personal story, and leadership lessons, along with telling the stories of others. And so, how did you balance that vulnerability and telling about that extremely private part of your life, and also and with the authority of like, hey, listen to me, I'm in your writing.
Yeah, I tried to do a good blend. I didn't want it to turn into something where everyone's like, "Uh oh, okay, I'm uncomfortable now. I'm going to move." So I do it in a very tasteful way. I do things in a any of the subject matters. I do it in a tasteful way, and that way people can read it and they get the point, but it's not beating people over the head with things. So yeah, I try to do things in a balanced way that felt important and felt. Authentic to the journey, and contributed to it in a way that I thought would be helpful to both female and male readers.
What do you hope? I was going. You came in there good. So, what do you hope women and men, because men should read this book too, walk
Yeah.
away with after reading your book?
I would love for people to walk away, male or female, with the way the book is structured is each chapter is like a puzzle piece, and the whole puzzle is leadership. And so each story, each lesson, each thing is all geared towards a puzzle piece and then putting it all together. So it's different elements and different aspects and different qualities of leadership. And the stories just support each of those things. And so I just want both female and male leaders to read the book, and aspiring entrepreneurs, and get those nuggets of information. And then really, it's a guide. It's got tools, it's got wisdom, it's got lessons learned. And it's not just for professional, it's also personal too. It's got both aspects. And then just also to walk away with motivation, encouragement, and belief that it's possible. Yes, it's hard work, it's not easy, but you can do it. And I want people to walk away with that positive feeling when they finish the book.
Yeah, one thing I always talk about, and especially when you reach these high levels of success, but it's true for everybody, I think. But when you reach these high levels of CEO, wife, mother, what are the things that you do to keep yourself showing up as what I like to say the level 10 version of yourself? And so one of the things we talk about constantly is your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, financial well-being. And really, in order for you to perform at the highest level, you have to like be your best, right? You have to show up as your best, and it's hard to show up as your best every single day as a mother, as a business leader, as a CEO, as a wife, all those things. So, what are the things that you've learned in your career that allow you to keep showing up as the best version of yourself to be the best leader you can be?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had been better about it when had my company and I was a CEO. I feel like you're just on the move so much, and you're on that hamster wheel.
Yep.
And I wish I had been better about taking better care of myself, mentally, physically, having a sport or a hobby or something that I could have channeled myself into. But you're just trying to keep your head above water most days, and especially add in a layer of raising a family and all the things that go into that. And so I think I've learned you need to be able to have a little bit of time to yourself. I do my best work when I can have time to think. I'm not in a reactive mode. I'm in a proactive mode. I can just sit there and I can just, I even just silence, you know, taking a walk and just thinking. I like that time where I can just think. And so if I can carve out some time to do that, exercise is extremely important. I've made a point in the last 5 or 6 years. I do something related to Peloton every day, whether that's bike or it's tread or it's the strength classes, meditation, whatever. And so for me, I feel like that is helpful, is if I can have some time to think, and then also some time to move the body. I always feel like if I start my day with exercise, it puts me in that right mindset. But I wish I had a hobby or something. If I had had the time, or I could have carved it out. My dad is a fencer, and so as he had his business, he would have his fencing as an outlet, and he still does it to this day. He's the vet 80 champion for the U.S. In epee fencing, and that was a lifelong sport for him. And I always envied the fact that he had this, you know, thing to do, or some people may have golf, or something. So yeah, it's just like you've got the Ironmans and the running. I mean, that's just a great outlet, and I feel like we have to have those kinds of outlets. And so if I have advice to people who are on the journey right now, try to carve it out, even if it's 30 minutes. Just have some kind of outlet where do something physical, or you sit there and draw or listen to music or just have silence or something. You just need to do something that kind of gives some time to yourself.
Yeah, that's the thing that I talk about, and it's for me. It's been those early morning hours. I'm up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. I actually slept in the last couple of days, rest and recovery from the
Yeah,
Ironman.
as you
But
should.
so it feels weird. I wake up and I'm like, what am I doing with myself right now? I don't sleep like this, but I'm catching up. But that's where things changed for me, because used to I was like you, very reactive to my day versus proactive.
Yeah,
And so by carving out those early morning hours where I could be proactive and think about the day ahead of me, versus waking up and immediately having to react to the day, is
yes.
where a lot of growth is happened for me, and changes happen for me. Uh, for anyone who wants to pick up a copy of the book or connect with you, what's the best way to find the book, find you, and connect?
Yeah, so there's different avenues. So you can go to jamiemoraga.com. That gets you to the website. I've got links there to Amazon, or you can go straight to Amazon, and I've got the book and the ebook there. And then social media, you can find me on Instagram. I'm Jamie period Moraga, and then I'm on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, please connect with me. Follow me. I'd love to connect with you all.
Awesome, Jamie. I really appreciate you coming on First Light, talking about your book. I can't wait to. I did pick up a copy. I just haven't had a chance to read it yet, but it is on my reading list now,
Nice.
and I can't wait to read it and give you a 5-star review on Amazon.
Thank
So
you.
I know
Oh,
how
I
important
appreciate it.
all that is. So again, thank you so much for being on First Light. Jamie, thank you for this conversation and for the courage it took to write Revered. Your story is a powerful example of what it looks like to rise above expectations, step into your purpose, and lead in a way that inspires others to do the same. For everyone listening, I encourage you to pick up a copy of Revered. Whether you're a leader, an entrepreneur, or someone in the middle of your own identity shift, this book will challenge you, empower you, and give you permission to lead differently. Thank you for joining us on First Light. Keep shining your light.